从其他国家来，比如说这个 ISIS 伊斯兰国的这个宗教迫害的受害者，以及一些受迫害的基督徒。
I'm also proud of the fact that President Trump, just a few short weeks ago at the United Nations General Assembly, became the first president in American history to speak
川普总统也成为了
at
在
the
联合
United
国
Nations in a conference on religious liberty.
川普总统也成为了这个在联合国的一个宗教自由会议上首次发言的美
But we
国
also
总
put
统。
our money where our mouth is, and particularly, let me say that Christian and religious minorities across the Nineveh Plain, Iraq, and Syria, impacted by years of warfare and the brutality of ISIS.
在中东地区呢，基督徒和一些少数的这个宗教信仰者，他们真的受到了战争的这个摧残。
That American aid through the United Nations was simply not flowing to religious minorities across the wider Middle East.
在过去，美国的这种经济资助一直都没有能够达到，一直都没有能够触及到这些遭受迫害的信仰者。
To NGOs working in the region who are rebuilding schools, who are rebuilding churches,
那么最近我们也为这些中东地区的一些非政府组织拨款，那么这些非政府组织一直在努力建立学校，一直在帮助当地的一些基督徒。
Kurdish region of Iraq, whether it be King Abdullah of Jordan, whether it be the Prime Minister of Iraq, all speaking out about the importance of religious plurality in that part of the world. And so just know that
我们也谈到了就是在中东地区宗教自由的这种多样化的重要性。美国永远都会在世界的舞台上为自由而战，为自由而抗争。在川普政府的领导下，我想我们首要的自由就是宗教自由，我们也会继续维护全世界的这个宗教自由。
Members of Congress are describing him as the North Star. He was an amazing member. And I remember vividly watching television during the contentious Kavanaugh hearings and seeing Elijah and our friend Mark Meadows, a co-founder of the Freedom Caucus, resolve what was an acrimonious conversation very peacefully. And both of them talked about the friendship they had forged in Congress. And I understand that Mark Meadows is speaking there. Actually, I just heard that as part of the ceremony today, and I salute him for doing that. My question is about friendships like that and the friendship we have, and the sad fact that more and more those friendships don't happen. Partisanship has just taken the place over. And bipartisanship becomes rarer and rarer.
友谊的问题，我们发现这个两党之间的这种合作好像越来越少。我想问一下彭斯总统，
and that rare thing that Fred valued most, putting the country first.
我们的机构将如何能够努力地去推动这种更多的两党之间的合作，为这个世界的自由做出贡献？
Let me extend my deepest condolences and respects to Elijah Cummings' family. I don't think he and I agreed on very much in the 12 years we served together.
我想我和他在过去几年当中并没有太多的地方相同，可是我知道他是一个有信仰的人。
We mark his passing with a genuine sense of loss.
那么他的去世呢，我们也感到非常的难过。
But I take your point, but I have to tell you, it is a very divided time, and you and I had our share of debates when we served together.
生活在一个非常分裂的时代，我们两个之间其实也有非常多的不同。
Well,
可是他却从来没有毁坏了我们的友谊。
But I always. There's a lot of talk about division. I was just in Wisconsin
现在有非常多的人在讨论这个分裂的问题。我们分歧的问题，两党之间的分歧。
What I say often around the country that there's so much focus these days, particularly on television, on what divides us. seems like
我在过去也说过，我觉得尤其是在电视上，他们过多的把关注的重点放在我们两党之间的分歧上。永远都是一个人站在一方，另一个人站在这个观点的另一方。所有的节目都是这样的。
A good, vigorous public debate we celebrate
我觉得这种激烈的公共辩论是一件好事。
As I travel around the country, I'll tell you, Jane, whatever's happening in Washington D.C., I'm absolutely convinced that there will always be more that unites us in these United States of America than will ever divide us.
我想告诉各位，
and I see that everywhere I go.
把美国人团结在一起的事情，永远都比把我们分裂的事情更多。
And a patriotic love for this country and everything that this country stands for. It's a love of family. It's a
比如说我们对我们国家的热爱，对我们信仰的这种珍视，对我们家庭的这种珍视，这些东西都是把我们团结在一起的。
Of lots of change in Washington D.C. and lots of debate. I think that foundation is all still there.
尽管华盛顿
I know the best days
政治界发生了非常非常多的变化，可是我觉得我刚刚提到的这些，我们的共同点一直都是我们的基石，那么也是一个不变的基石。
Was a mentor to you when you were a young man. You said that last time when you spoke at the center. And
I started out as a Democrat.
我年轻的时候其实是一个民主党。这个世界上有更糟糕的事情。我曾经是一个民主党的这个年轻的协调人。
A great senator from your state died. You were at his funeral, and many of us recall that Dick Lugar and Sam Nunn of different parties
你的州内的一位比较杰出的这个议员去世了，你也参加了他的葬礼。
Denuclearizing the arsenals, the nuclear arsenals in the Soviet republics, the former Soviet republics, something that's been very valuable in the world. And by the way, I applaud your comments on denuclearizing North Korea, something we all profoundly hope for.
我也感谢你。
One last question.
对这个朝鲜去核化的一个评论，我觉得这是一件非常重要的事情。
To change the relationship, the economic relationship between China and the U.S. You said, and you're right, that he's the first person who has strongly pushed for addressing the tough issues, the ones about intellectual property theft and the ones about surveillance, etc. And I also thought you were right to scold corporate America a little bit for bending perhaps too much in order to have a trade relationship with China. So hopefully in the next week or so, phase one of that deal will be signed. But there needs to be phase two. I know you agree. And so my question is, how likely are we to get a phase two? And if we get that, how much does a better economic relationship with China influence our entire relationship with China?
Well, first, let me thank you for mentioning the late Senator Richard Lugar. He was a
感谢你刚刚提到了这位去世的议员，他对我来说是一个导师，也是一个珍贵的朋友。
We said goodbye to him
我们当时告别
the state of Indiana.
告别了他。
And I will tell you, as you speak about their partnership between Senator Sam Nunn and Senator Lugar, before President Trump went to one of his summits with Kim Jong-un,
在川普总统见这个朝鲜的金正恩之前，他当时邀请了两位议员。
He really does.
我们都知道，川普总统非常喜欢请各种各样的人到他身边来，然后给他各种各样的意见。
The input of those two men that literally made history after the collapse of the Soviet Union and dismantling the nuclear weapons, and they were able to share their insights on the way forward as we continue to drive toward denuclearization. I think also, hopefully that moment also speaks about something else about the president that I serve with, who I can tell you meets on a regular basis with with Republicans and Democrats. He
我也
meets
想
on a
告诉各
regular
位，就
basis
是
with
我
people
和
who
川普
offer the
总统
broadest
真的是
perspective.
时时刻刻的一直不停的
The
在会
decisions,
见
and this is a
美
president
国
who
两
has
党来自两党
no
的这
problem
些
making a decision like any good
议员和
leader.
专家。
But he's someone who really welcomes the broadest range of counsel, and that was a
川普总统也
that was a
是
good
非
opportunity to
常的
reflect on that.
欢迎
With
各种各样的
regard
意见。
to China, as you mentioned, we are hopeful that Phase 1 with its
我们刚刚谈到了
additional
中国，
purchases of American agriculture can be
我也希
confirmed
望
in Chile.
中美贸易战的第一阶段，中美贸易协议的第一阶
As the
段
President
能够
reflected
达
again with
成。
me this morning before I came over, President Trump believes that China wants to make a deal. He
我
remains
想说
optimistic
川普总统
that not
非常
only
想
can
要
we
达成
complete
一个
Phase
协
1,
议，
but
他是一
that
个，
we
他
can
现在
move
还是一个很
on
积极的态
to the
度。
structural issues that I described a year ago and spoke about again today. They
他
are
今天
the
又提到
challenging
了
issues of the reality of intellectual property theft.
尽管我们面
By
对这样
some
各种
estimates,
各样
the
的挑
United
战，
States
比如
economy
说这
loses
种
as much in
中
intellectual
共
property
盗
theft
取美国的知识产
as
权
we
的
lose
这
in the
种
trade
现
deficit
实，
itself.
我们还面临
It's
着
an
一个巨大的
extraordinary
贸易
statistic
逆
to
差。
reflect on. But forced
这些事情都
technology
是值得反思
transfers,
的，
industrial
以及这种
subsidies
强制的
have
技术转
really
移。
worked against the interest of the American economy,
中国的这
American
些行为真
businesses,
的是
and American workers. And the
对美
president's
国
going to continue to
美
stand
国人、美
strong
国
on
工
those
人和美
issues.
国的商业都是有巨大的伤害的。
Let me say, and I hope it was reflected in my comments as well, we truly believe that if we can get this economic relationship right,
那么我也相信，如果我们在这个经济和贸易的问题上能够走上一条正确的道
for
路，
also addressing these other issues.
我觉得我
But
们
it
在
was
其
candid
他
about a
领
year
域
ago. The president's
的
been
对华
candid
政策
about.
上也可能有一些更好的进步。
The president truly
川普
believes
总统
that
在这个问题上一直
the
非常的明
opportunity that we
确，
have to set this economic relationship right is
我们
where
必须要
a new relationship
使我们
between the
的对
United
华
States
的
and
经
China
济和
can
贸易政
begin.
策走上一条
Not end.
正确的道路。
But in that environment of a fair, mutually respectful
我们必须达成这样一种互相尊重的态度，
relationship, as the president often says.
对
We
等
think
平等的态
there
度，
is a
对等平
foundation
等的
for our
政策。
nations to move forward and for us to see
这样我们
progress on
才
the broadest
能
range
够
of issues
在其他的问题上， 在
on
其
the
他
hearts and minds
对华
of the
政策
American
关系的
people.
问题上取得更
Well,
多
I
进步。
think, and I think I speak for the Wilson Center bench, which is out in force in the bleacher seats. I think if the president and you can do that, that would be a huge, to quote him, huge foreign policy achievement.
我觉得如果你
worthy
和川普总统
of
能够
the
做到这
office
一
of
点，
President of the United States,
能够
and I
修正与
thank
中
you
国
for
的关系的
coming
话，
to
那么这
join
将是一
us
个巨
to
大巨大的
celebrate
外交
Fred
政策上的进步，
and
外
to
交政策上的
celebrate
成就。
freedom and to celebrate better days ahead. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
非常
Thank you, Mike.
非常感谢副总统彭斯。